Wonderful, wonderful. So, welcome once again today. And I'm going to begin with a thought, deep thoughts. What happens when a mortgage expert reviews a traditional financing business like a software startup using automation, CRM, infrastructure, AI, and microsite architecture while serving an industry where housing is not just a transaction, but a basic need, an investment decision, and one of the most emotional financial choices people make. This episode is about three things at once. First, it's about housing as a humanity reality, housing as a shelter, family, security, wealth, debt, risk, stress, and hope. Many people are kept out of the home ownership not only by affordability, but by also confusion, myth, misinformation, and poor guidance. Third, this is about business architecture. Phil, who is our guest today, has built a mortgage business with startup-like logic, automation, CRM workflows, microsites, web architecture, organic leads generation, and I-trust system that allow a lean team to scale. The conversation is about you and your decision. And I want us to dive into it by ensuring that everyone is engaged. And I welcome you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're following us on LinkedIn, follow us. If you're on Facebook, if you're on TikTok, make sure you engage with us, because one of the key things that we want to do in the remaining part of the year is bring you experts in different fields to make sure you are up to date in terms of what is happening in different industries and the impact that that comes with. Wonderful. Housing, as we said, is one of the most human decisions a person will ever make. It is a shelter, it is a family, it is stability, it is debt, it is wealth, it is risk, it is hope. But behind that emotional decision sits an industry full of friction. Mortgage systems, lead flows, pre-approvals, credit scores, rates, closing costs, disclosures, underwriting, paperwork. Who do you know? Trusts. For many people, the path of ownership feels as a confusion before it even begins. Some believe they need 20% down. Some believe they need perfect credit. Some chase the lowest rate without understanding the full costs. Some are approved for a loan but still do not know whether they can try for the home. And some never begin because the process feels built for someone else. Today on Impact Masters, we are asking a deeper question. What happens when a mortgage expert takes more than 2 decades of experience and builds a traditional mortgage business like a software startup? What happens when automation, CRM workflows, AI, and microsite architecture are applied to high-trust industry, where people are making one of the most important financial decisions of their lives? And how do we build better systems around housing without losing the human care that housing requires? Welcome to Impact Masters. And this is a place where we sit with builders, leaders, founders, operators, creators, and visionaries who are shaping the future of technology, business leadership, and human potential. This is a space for conversations that go beneath the surface. We explore not only what people are building, but why it matters. Not only how companies scale, but what kind of human beings and systems they produce along the way. Not only the intelligence of technology, but the wisdom required to use it well. At Impact Masters, we believe that meaningful impact requires more than ambition. It requires clarity, it requires discipline, it requires courage, it requires systems that serve people, not the other way around. I'm your host, Michael Kimathi, or if you want, MK. And today's guest is Phil Ganz. I don't know if I'm saying that right. So Phil is a multi-state business founder, tech-driven entrepreneur, and president of Next Wave Mortgage. He spent more than 2 decades in residential financing, helping families, first-time buyers, self-employed borrowers, investors, and complex clients one of the most important financial decisions of their life. Phil is also known as Ask the Mortgage Expert, a positioning that reflects both his industry experience and his commitment to making mortgage knowledge more accessible. But Phil is not only a mortgage professional, he is also a systems builder. He operates in a traditional relationship heavy industry with the mindset of a software founder. He actively engineers technology stacks, CRM automation, webhooks, advanced web architecture, and organic lead generation system. His business uses a network of more than 200 consumer-facing real estate and mortgage microsites to create scalable, local, search-driven demand. Today's conversation is about mortgage myth, housing, access, automation, AI, trust, name it, the rails that actually make the service business possible. And the bigger question is housing a basic need, an investment, or a business ecosystem? And what responsibility do we carry when we build technology around something so deeply human? Phil, welcome to Impact Masters.
Thank you for having me, by the way. Thank you so much.
You're welcome once again, and I was looking forward to hosting you, ensuring we disseminate this information to our followers and people who really want to make decisions with informed knowledge. And taking time to really share that is quite something. I was checking out, your website and what you provide, and the testimonials are crazy. So if you're out there, you're listening to us, or you watch this afterward, please leave a comment if this is helpful. But without further ado, I want to start with your personal story before we talk mortgage myth, automation, microsite, and whatnot. Where did it all start, Phil? Like, what was your, before 20 years, what was that?
I mean, mortgages was my first job that I ever had. I started off as a telemarketer, for a large corporation. And, every step of the way, I just try to learn something new, get better, improve. So you start at an advantage. I started at the bottom. And then you work your way up. And that's what I would tell, people that are listening. It's great when you can start with the most basic job, because you're going to need that as you kind of progress, with many years. You just try to get better at every single job.
Wonderful. Where do you come from, Phil? We want to, like, if you're talking to the first timer who you meet, like me, or someone, who is Phil before the mortgage, like, what is that story?
Yeah, well, I'm originally from, I'd say, Newton, Massachusetts. It's a suburb of Boston, and it's a nice community. It wasn't, it wasn't easy growing up always. Life has its challenges, right? My parents got divorced, when I was, in middle school, and I think they weren't really great with their managing finances. And I think that once, where it kind of changed my perspective of trying to save and invest, do the opposite, right? But I think that's a big thing, is being financially responsible. Kids, they get taught at a young age, have a big advantage. People always ask, when should I do something? When should I learn? They rely in school. Well, reality is that it starts as early as possible, right? This is something very, important. In fact, if you look at the statistics, homeschooled kids outperform the fanciest private schools to 12 to 18%, right? And obviously private schools outperform public schools. That's a no-brainer. But nothing outperforms caring parents that help out their kids by telling them what they need to know, right? You can't always rely on teachers. You need to have parents, right, that help. And, so that's what I would tell you. But, I've always had an interest of trying to want to save and invest.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because home actually can, they say it can make or break a home, but that home has to exist first, right? And if, the family breaks before the home exists, even so unfortunate, because kids suffer, people go homeless, but we'll get deep into it and ensure that we dissect different impact of not really affording a home or even not making the right decision when it comes to it. Things like divorce come into play, and so on and so forth. And it's good to hear that, from a background of your story, it really informs the solution that you build to solve some of these.
Look, parents, play a big role in the kids' development and adults' development, right? And I think, with Father's Day coming up, right? It's a good lesson. It's this is a big thing, right? How involved are you as a parent? It's more than just being a good dad. Look, I'm 48. I have a 8-month-old, and people said, I have a girl, and people said, would you rather have a boy? Which is always a weird question, right? Because I'm so happy to have a girl. But like a lot of guys ask this question because they envision their kid being playing in the World Cup or being in the NBA or football. They live through their kids. If you want to help your kids succeed, because most likely your kid's not going to be a professional athlete. This is ridiculous. Help them understand the difference between good versus evil. Tell them how to save money, invest, be smart. A lot of really important things, right? Not, sports. They're not going to be professional athletes. They're more likely to need these skills of how to buy a home, how to invest, how to save. Those are the more important skills at a young age than think about it. You see these parents with their sons. We went to basketball practice today. Okay, great. How about practice of how to buy a home? It sounds ridiculous, a lot of these things, but smart families help out their kids with the education at a young age. It just maybe not as exciting,
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what I would say, right? And to your audience, I was late to the pre-podcast, and you're like, why? I'll tell you a story. I had to deal with the police today, the prosecutor's office, because I had 2 kids. First day of summer, this is true. They wanted to break into my house as a surprise, right? They didn't. They ended up destroying my door and causing nuisance, ruining a bunch of other houses along the way, putting glass bottles behind car tires, chaos in the whole neighborhood. And I come to think, and they're like, what do you think? This is what the prosecution's off. I said, they're probably not celebrating Father's Day. That's what my guess is, because, your goal as a father is not to let your kids, first day of summer, terrorize the neighborhood and try to break into a home. And I'm just lucky that they didn't break into the home, because I don't want to be, I'm an 8-month-old. I don't want to be put in a position where, I got to defend myself with a gun, break into my house. And, it's a horrible situation, and the kid's 12, and the other kid that tried to break in, he's on the run from the police. Can you imagine your whole summer? You're hiding from the police. And what's so funny? The police have gone to the kid. The parents are like, where's the kid?
Yeah.
They can't find the kid. Right? And so the parents are trying to hide the kid. And they're gonna get him because the kid has to go to school. So even if you escape for like a month or 2, they're gonna find you. And it's just, it's the same thing. Parents gotta be involved. They got to be able to help out the kids. That's what I would tell people, is that it's such a ridiculous story. And if this was me, right, and I'm the parents, I'm not hiding my kid. I'm going to bring him to jail, bring him there. And you know what the thing is? All I ever wanted, they're like, well, what do you want? They said, do you want to press charges or not? I just said, all I want is my door fixed and an apology. And don't do it again. Instead, because they're, the way they go about things, they're going to end up getting in way more trouble, than normal, right? It's so silly. But I would tell people, you got to be more involved parents, right? Much more involved.
Yes.
Teach your kids education, learning, reading, finances. Even if you're not good with finances yourself, you can always read
Yeah.
about it to your kids, right?
Mm.
This is important. Don't be the cool parent. Be the parent that helps out your kids.
Mm. Agreed. So Phil, these actually, it sounds like a simple matter, but with the people having guns and whatnot, and this is Florida, right? If it was Texas, that would be a different story. And it goes deeper than just being, because if you're not a father and you're trying to protect yourself, then someone ends up in an hospital, right? And it takes for parents to just show up and guide them and even teach them how to live with neighbors, how to live in a better neighborhood that really ensures that there's peace, there's cohesion, and people are living more happily. So and in these incidents, actually, it begs to ask, how do we get everyone at home? Because home actually forms a family, gives people peace.
It does. It creates legacy wealth. Correct.
Mm-hmm. Mm. So for you, actually, in different setting, you brand yourself as Ask the Mortgage Expert. And it's very strong and clear positioning. What does that mean to you? And is it about answering mortgage questions? Is it about empowering people to really afford houses? Is it about simplifying confusing industry? And in the innate state of it, is this something deeper?
Yeah, what I would tell people is owning a home can change legacies, right? And this is really important. People want to know like how they can get ahead. It's really about helping your kids. I always tell people wherever you want to go, think of the end first. Start with the end of the story of where you want to be, and then go to the beginning of how you're going to get there. Okay? And so where you want to be is your kids to be better than you, right? Most people
Absolutely.
want to have kids. So let's just say you're going to have kids, even if you don't have kids. You're going to want your kids to be successful. So what is it going to be takes you to be successful? That means you need to know all the steps, how to buy a home, how to save money, how to sacrifice. Because that's what rich people do. People that are ahead make sacrifices. And the biggest thing is it's not only the sacrifices, they eliminate distractions. There was something called the marshmallow test, and I'll tell you what had happened. And it's a world famous test. The marshmallow test was they went to these kids and they said, "Do you want a marshmallow immediately, or do you want if you're willing to wait, you can get 2 marshmallows after a couple of minutes." So all the kids that were willing to wait came from wealthy families. They found this.
Yeah, I don't know. We lost your Phil for a bit. I don't know if it's the internet.
And that was the biggest thing, is that if you can avoid temptation, you can focus and succeed the most.
Yeah.
And that is something really imperative that I would tell you,
Yeah, got you. I lost you for a bit, the last few sentences before, you came back. I think it's the internet a bit, but let's proceed. So you have spent more than 2 decades in residential, financing. Many people enter in an industry, but not everyone stays long enough to master it like you've done. So what kept you in the mortgage for this long? Was there a moment when you realized this industry is at the intersection of money, family, trust, access, and sense of stability that really is needed in someone's life?
Yeah, I just love helping people. This is the big thing. I really helping people, and I thought I was able to connect with people. No more than no less than that. Like I love helping people. I love my job so much.
Mm. That basically it, right?
That's it. No more, no less than that. I keep it simple. I just like
Yeah,
helping people.
yeah. And it's a good purpose to live by. And for most people, especially companies that really get into the business because of how lucrative it is, they consider housing as a product, but the family considers it as a shelter, right? Some of the family actually says, you know, like family is where you're at, and that place should be home, right? It gives you that safety, it gives you that sense of, a belonging. It is sometimes for some people it's a debt, because if you get a mortgage, you pay every month, that's a debt. The others who actually it's a stress, because if you miss one payment, it's done for you. You are homeless, just like that. And to others, like, upcoming young people, they see it as hope. In case something goes wrong, they can actually remortgage it, or even invest, have some place to stay as they figure out their adulthood. When you sit with a borrower, especially in a first time home buyer, what do you see emotionally that market often misses?
Yeah, I just think what the market like misses is that people wait too long to enter the market. This
Mhm.
is a big thing. Everyone's looking for perfection. There's a value
Mm.
to time. It's like if you take a penny and you double it, it does like think about it. One
Yeah.
cent day one, right? It
Mm.
doubles, right? Your two
Mm.
cents day two, 4 cents day three, right? 8, 16,
Yeah.
32, 64. Well, I get 6 days, you still have $1,
Yeah.
right? And it
Yeah.
doesn't get to like day 27 or day 26 where you start hitting like $1 million. And like the reason why I bring that up is that's exactly like buying a home. The sooner you buy, the
Mm.
better.
Interesting. Interesting. So the moment what you're saying here right now is that the moment you get a steady income, it may be a business, maybe a job, that for sure there's stability, maybe full time and pension and whatnot. Start investing in a home. That's what you're saying in simple terms. Don't wait. Don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And where do I start? Do I start by asking for advice? Do I go to a bank and ask them, do they offer mortgage to someone like me? Where do I exactly start?
Well, I would tell you selfishly to call me, but in reality is it depends on where you are on your journey, right?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
your family doesn't own a home, you may
Mhm.
need a like what I would tell people is that you always want to you want a trusted advisor. You want to
Mm.
start this process as early as possible.
Yeah. And what is that Harley? Is it when you make your first million? Is it how
No,
Harley is
I
it?
would start right away. If I wanted to
Mhm.
buy a home, it's right in the beginning. You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
I would start it not, even before you really want to buy, just to get educated, to see what it's like, you know,
Mm. Mm.
as early as possible because you don't want to look at it as a product, right? It's
Mm.
like I got baby Madison. When am I going to do it? I'm going to do it as soon as possible,
Mm. Mhm.
Day
Mhm.
zero is what I call. Don't wait till
Yeah.
you want to buy a home. Wait till
Mm.
right away. Like
Yeah.
go as soon as possible.
Yeah. Got you. So this might be confusing to anyone who is listening, someone who has not gone through the process, someone who has not talked to someone like Philip, right? Um, when you look at today's housing environment, and these from different states, different countries, different continents, many people feel locked out, right? Prices are high, rates have been difficult, inventory can be uneven, renters feel squeezed, buyers feel uncertain. From your perspective, what is actually happening in the housing mortgage market right now?
Yeah, and look, in the United States, you have 50 different countries that are linked to one, right?
Mhm.
So every area is different. If in
Yeah.
certain areas, like major cities,
Mhm.
LA, Chicago, Miami, right? You have to realize There are
Yeah.
9 cities, almost 10, that are
Yeah.
actually bigger than the state of Rhode Island. Okay. So that means in those cities, homes will be expensive, right? In
Mm.
fact, this New York City, if it was a state, would be the 12th most populous state. So what does this tell you? That means if you live in a state, in a city that's very populous, that you might have to move.
Demand and supply.
That's it. You might have to move. If you live in New York City, you're probably not going to be able to buy.
But
If
it's
you're
not
young.
as yeah, sorry, Phil, but it's not as simple as just moving, because there's some people who have made their life there. They are all histories there. You've been born there. Maybe you're like that generation. You can't just wake up and move.
Yeah, you know,
What
it's
do you-
funny. I talked to my dad about this,
Mhm.
and my family's from Czechoslovakia. My dad in 1968 moved, and he moved to the United States from Czechoslovakia. He escaped communism. Russia escaped. And I asked him a question. If Russia didn't invaded, would you have left? And communism isn't good.
Yeah.
And he says to me, no. I
Oh,
said, well, what happens if life was a 5 out of 10? Would you have left?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
4. No. 3. No. 2. No. Like, people
Yeah.
don't leave. This is what people don't realize. Like, why doesn't everyone, like, all the North Koreans run through the border at once?
Yeah.
You know, they give that same reason. And not everyone's biggest purpose in life is home ownership. A lot
Absolutely.
of people have too many distractions.
Yeah.
They'll never make it. Not
Yeah.
everyone's destined for greatness. Not everyone's destined to become wealthy or successful. And not everyone's destined to become a homeowner. This is just reality. That's the way
Yeah.
cards are. I'm sorry, right? Like, if your history's there, you ain't buying if you were born there and you don't want to move. I'm sorry. If you say I'm born in New York City and, you know, it's expensive, which it is, because it's the most people living there, you know, and you don't want to move, what do I say? I'm saying, I'm sorry. You're not going to be a homeowner. You're not going to become wealthy. And I'm sorry you didn't become you know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing. It's, you know, my dad had the same conversation with me. He told me once, I thought it was okay at basketball. You know what my dad told me? You're not going to the NBA. I said, why? So you're not. That's it. That
I hope
was
you
it.
didn't
That's the
question him.
conversation. You're not.
Yeah.
I'll tell them you're not. You can become a homeowner. I'm sorry, but I
And
want
it is what
to.
it is.
You're
Yeah.
not, but I want to. Sorry, I'm not going to the NBA either. My dad told me. It's the same thing. But I play and I try hard and I love it.
And this begs me to ask, before I go to my next question, where does that leave someone? Is it also better to know that you don't want to be a homeowner early?
Yeah, I would just say, well, not everyone will become rich. Certain people will become permanent renters and stay poor, and their kids will be poor, and everyone can just have a lineage of staying poor, right? If the end result is to stay poor, and that's fine. Look, Jesus wasn't rich. He was a great guy, though, right? People can make the argument he was a good guy, right? Money doesn't make you a better person. Home ownership doesn't mean you're going to, like, the difference between heaven and not heaven doesn't mean buying a home. But if you feel I want to become wealthy, what do I need to do? And I live in like New York City or Boston, you might have to move. Like, I'm just saying, right? If you look at the Bible based on Jesus's wealth, I don't think he could buy a home either.
Yeah. But okay, that if we go that direction, actually, now be asking, what is rich and what is poor, right? And the definition actually.
That's exactly right. So, but like, what I'm saying is, if people want money in the bank and have a lot of money, then I can help you. I can be honest with you. But if it's just like, you know, everything else, that's fine. You don't need money to be happy. Let's be very clear with this. But if the question is, how do I get my bank account to have a lot of money? That's what I'm here for. There's a difference, but I don't want to say that will be happiness or that will get you into heaven. It may not.
Okay. So let me ask the bigger question then. Is housing primarily a basic human need, or is it an investment vehicle?
It's an investment vehicle. You can always rent. It's an investment vehicle. You don't need it. You don't have to be a homeowner. You can be poor. There's nothing wrong with being poor. Like there isn't, right? Like I had no money at one time in my life. Doesn't mean I was like a bad person. Right? In fact, you can make the argument if you have a lot of money, you may not be a good person, but you probably do bad things because you have more temptation. Just saying, you know?
So let me actually dive into myth and facts, right? And because there's a lot of myth, right? And I don't know why this sector, I don't know if because of demand or because of, lack of people curiosity to get the solution, or maybe there's scarce knowledge out there, but there's so much around it. So let me create a practical Ask Mortgage Expert section for our audience, because many people make housing decisions based on assumptions they picked up from family, friends, social media, old rules, or incomplete advice. Because if I've not bought a house and you come ask me about buying a house advice, definitely I'll tell you all the reasons why I've not bought a house, right? So I'll name a common mortgage myth, and I would love for you to help us separate what is true, what is incomplete, and what people should actually do, right? So, myth, you need 20% down.
That's false. You don't need any money. With down payment assistance, you don't need any money to buy a home.
So what is the truth?
The truth is you don't need money. The way that it works is it's like buying a car, right? You negotiate the price, you get the price point, then you get you can get the special programs for down payment assistance, and then you'll say, what about closing costs? You can get the seller to pay. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. It's just like buying a car. There's no difference.
So when is 20% helpful? When is it unnecessary?
It's helpful when you're buying a house that's, in a technical answer, 20% is never really necessary unless you're taking out a mortgage, over $1 million or $1.5 million. But it is helpful to put down if you want your payment to be less, but it's not needed.
So how should a serious buyer think about down payment, monthly payment, cash reserves, and financial resilience?
I would tell a young person today, you want to save money. You want to be able to save money. Saving money is a skill. Saving money is a skill, just like driving a car or computer programming or throwing a football. Saving money is a skill.
And is this saving to buy or saving
saving in general? You need to know how to save money.
Okay.
If someone gives you $1, how much can you save of it? It's like right away. It's like this shirt I'm wearing. It's like I've had it since college, right? Bought it for $10, still good. I don't need a new gray shirt. It's great,
Yeah. So another common belief that someone needs perfect credit to get a mortgage. What is the reality?
The reality is you don't need perfect credit, but you don't want any lates in the last 12 months, right? You're short, if you've been late in the last 12 months, you shouldn't buy a home. Most likely because you're not ready. You're behind. you need to be on top of your bills, right? If
Mm,
you were late 2 years ago or 3 years ago, that's different. But you need to know your numbers, you know?
mm.
You need to
Yeah,
be able to get ahead of things, you know?
yeah. So how should buyers think about credit score, credit history, debt, income, and overall file strength? Because what is marketed out there is, you need, perfect this, perfect that. And
You,
before you know it, there's a real life, right?
yeah, you
Even
don't
doing the
need
math.
perfect this. I would say you could typically borrow 4 to 5 times your annual income. So
Mhm,
that's a good barometer, 4 to 5 times your annual income. You know?
mm,
That's
yeah.
what I would say. Keep it simple. You know, you don't need to be perfect. Start sooner rather than later, and you can borrow about 4 to 5 times your annual income.
So what can someone realistically do in the next 90 days if they want to become more mortgage ready?
What I would say is take your savings and pay off all your bills and your debt.
Mhm,
Eliminate your debt is always the first thing. A big mistake that a lot of buyers make is they save money and they accumulate credit cards. Eliminate your
mm,
credit cards, get your bills under control.
mhm, mhm. So that sounds great. But if the interest is high on my debt, right? Does it equalize what I like if I get the mortgage and eliminate my debt, or even plan to eliminate that debt? It might not become a reality as soon as I want it to, but is it worth investing that much into eliminating all credits in the long term and ensuring that there's discipline either in saving and ensuring that now I'm mortgage ready?
You need your first step of mortgage ready is to eliminate your credit cards. You really need to
Mm,
have your credit cards under control. Not to say that you can't buy with credit cards, but responsible people eliminate their credit cards first.
oh, got you. That's
You need to
interesting.
eliminate temptation.
What you're saying is that what bank is selling everywhere in the world is what is holding people behind. But that's a story for another day. So,
Right? The story is temptation. You need to
ah,
eliminate temptation. You never
yeah.
want to close your credit cards, but you might
Mm,
want to cut up your credit cards.
got you. Got you. So, a lot of buyers focus almost entirely on the interest rate, but the lowest rate is not always the best financial decision if the fees, points, loan structure, or time horizon do not make sense. How do you help borrowers understand the difference between a low rate and the right mortgage strategy?
Yeah, that's a great question, because you never really want to delay buying a house, right? But it
Mhm.
comes down to understanding all your options in your situation. It's about understanding your numbers. The right program will understand once we know your numbers. So there's no one right loan program for everyone. Everyone is different. So you
Mm,
need to go over it with your mortgage advisor for what the best program is.
yeah. So eh, when I was introducing this, show, I mentioned things like pre-qualified, pre-approved, underwritten, approved, and clear to close. Those terms can be confusing for first timers or even, seasonal investors. What should buyers understand about the difference?
Boy, that's a really great question in terms of all the different differences of programs and synonyms and names and because certain programs, I give you an example. The official definition of a first-time home buyer is you can't have owned a home in the last 3 years. But there's certain programs that you can't have owned a home like past 3 years, right? So, you always have to meet with your advisor and line up the right program with the right definitions.
Mm,
That's
mm,
what I would say. I always take my time to figure things out of what is in the best interest of the client.
mm. And is it where you come in to really interpret some of these
You
nuances?
do. You have to interpret and then be able to sit down with the right people. Correct.
Mm. And is it possible to like break down what some of those terminologies means on like a higher level?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different like terms, right? And I think people get like, when you look at fees, like what I would basically tell anyone is this, like if it was the process, is that one issue, let me tell you what the issue is, right?
Mhm.
Is that people, the first step is they fill out an application and then they
Mhm.
ask for pre-approval. Now,
Mhm.
certain people will provide documents for the pre-approval and certain people won't. I always recommend providing the documents so you can get more terminology. And then after that, you should be able to go over and ask for a loan estimate to go over your monthly payments, your down payment, your loan program, um, and really all the terminology. Because when you get a loan estimate, all the terms, right? Because we provide these itemized worksheet, we provide a list of every possible term. So people do themselves a disservice by not providing sometimes their documents and not requesting a loan estimate, right?
Mm.
That loan estimate will have all these different terms of all the fees. By
Mhm.
definition, there'll be fees and terms. So if you want to educate yourself, you need to ask for a loan estimate.
Oh,
So you can understand the loan program and you can understand the name of the program for the fees. You know?
yeah, yeah. Makes sense. It's like when you go to court and you need a lawyer
Yes.
because it sounds, even when the judgment sometimes is read, you think you're winning, but in there are some terms that actually tie you down. Before you know it, if you're not a law expert, then definitely you'll be surprised, like what is happening. I'm winning the case. Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. And I feel like also some of the financial bankers uh, use legal terminology, or they utilize their legal to form some of those terms and conditions and bake in what is required of you as a mortgage applicant. So another myth is that entrepreneurs do not qualify for mortgage, and many entrepreneurs, creators, people who just generate their own revenue, business owners. What do employed buyers often misunderstand, and what should they prepare before they apply, and what should they think about before the tax season if they want to really buy a home?
Yeah, you got to know your situation and you got to know your numbers, right? A lot of people just automatically write things off, and you got to go over your tax planning.
Mm,
Sometimes your accountant doesn't know that you're planning on buying a house, so they
mhm.
might write everything off versus depreciate or stretch it over time. The
Yeah.
second thing is that when you work with an independent mortgage broker like myself, we have alternative financing, like qualifying you on bank statement loans or a profit and loss loan or a no income verification loan. So there's
Mm,
different ways to solve the issues, you know?
mhm, mhm. Got you. So there's sometimes stigma or confusion, and this is another myth around down payment assistance. Some people think it is only for people who are financially weak. Others do not know the programs exist. How should buyers think about down payment assistance? Who is it
Yeah,
really
down,
for?
yeah, down payment assistance is for just people that don't want to touch their money, right? It's not for the weak. It's for people that don't want to liquidate their capital, you know?
It's like how they say the rich never spend their money. They just go
Yeah,
and use
down
it as a
payment assistance
collateral.
is great. Why
Yeah.
wouldn't you want it? It's more American than the American flag itself.
But is it that counterintuitive in avoiding, living in credit?
No, it depends on your situation. It allows you to start investing. Buying a home is investing. It's not
All right.
spending.
Yeah. As long as you don't live in that house, because if you live in a definitely to some extent it's not investment, because either way, um it doesn't generate any money if you live in
It doesn't, but it eventually will when you move out, right? At least it
Ah,
appreciates and it goes up, right?
okay. Got you. So that's interesting to hear. Another myth is around borrowers who are afraid to compare lenders because they think multiple inquiries will damage their credit. What is a practical tool? How should buyers shop intelligently? And what should they compare beyond the headline rate?
What I would tell people is that you want to look, it's always good to compare, right?
Mm,
But more
mm,
importantly, it's even better to work with a trusted advisor ahead of time. You'll
mm,
save more money and energy from working up front with the right person than just doing these random Google searches.
mm, mhm. Okay, got you. So this might be the most important myth, right? Some people think that if a lender approves them, the home must be affordable. But eligibility and affordability are not always the same thing. How do you help people distinguish what they may qualify for from what they can comfortably sustain?
Yeah, that's a great question, because when you look at what's the maximum usually, it may be 50% of your gross income. That's income before your taxes, right?
Mhm,
Sometimes it can even be higher, 60, 60. Look, you should not, you gotta know your numbers. Someone
mhm,
self-employed can be higher than someone non-self-employed. But
mm,
that's why you want to eliminate your debt so you can invest more in a home and less in your credit cards, right?
yeah,
But if you want my thing, your mortgage payment should never be more than a third or 35% of your gross salary. So that
mm.
means if you make $10,000 a year, it shouldn't be more than, let's call it, 4 grand a month is a good way to look at it.
Is there a reason behind that?
Yeah, any higher, you're gonna struggle and you're not saving enough money. The
Oh.
money that you save is very important. You need to be able to save money.
So it doesn't matter what you're going through, you should be saving money. It doesn't
Always.
matter.
It's called
Yeah.
residual income. Residual income is money you're able to save, right?
Yeah. I think we lost
Oh,
Phil.
sorry, right here. Sorry.
Yeah. I think the internet is not cooperating. Um, so one of the most important documents, as you mentioned, is loan estimates. For people who have never seen one, first timers, right? What should they look at? Which section matters most? Because I believe this might be a 30, 40, or even
Section
200.
A.
Okay.
Section A, loan origination charges. That's where you can see the bank is making money. So if you're like,
Loan
where is it?
origination charges.
Just remember the letter A. That's it. Remember A. A for apple. Should they call it F for fees, but A for apple? Remember A
Yeah.
for apple. That's what I would tell you.
Mm. What are the red flags that should make a buyer slow down and ask questions?
When the biggest thing is them not wanting to go over the numbers. If someone's
Mm,
willing to go over the numbers, more likely than not, they're being honest. You want
mm,
someone that's willing to go over the details with you.
mhm, mhm. Got you. So there's a closing disclosure which is meant to help people avoid surprises before closing. What should buyers compare between the loan estimate and the closing disclosure? What changes are normal? What changes should trigger concern? And what questions should every buyer ask before signing?
Once the closing disclosure is signed,
Mhm.
right? The fees once it's sent out, it can't really be increased, right? I think there's a couple of fees like title can increase slightly, but I think the biggest thing that I would ask is my interest rate locked? This is
Mm,
the number one fee. If you don't know if your rate is locked, you want to make sure you understand. What that means is your rate is guaranteed. And if people don't know, go for please lock my rate. That's what I would tell everyone. If you don't
mm.
know, then request your rate to be locked.
Okay. So Is it like a trick the bankers use to really, so that inflation, when inflation changes or policies change, they can change the rates?
They like to play games, because sometimes the buyers aren't committed and the banks aren't committed. But I just tell the buyers, just lock the rates. Don't play
Mm.
games. Lock your rate.
Okay. Okay. So let's go to bad mortgage advice. So bad mortgage advice can damage someone's finances for years. As you mentioned, if you're paying more than 10, 30, 40% of your income, then it means a lot of mess will happen. Can it affect the family, savings, stress, and future options? And what are the most dangerous pieces of mortgage advice or misinformation buyers receive?
Yeah, my biggest piece of people ask me this all the time. What's the best mortgage advice that you could give? Right.
Mhm.
And I just tell people a good loan originates itself. Make sure that you provide all your documents and you go over all the numbers.
Yeah.
This as simply as possible.
Okay. So that's like the opposite of bad advice. So what is
That's
bad
it.
advice? Don't look at the document and just sign.
Yeah. Numbers matter.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So Phil, I wanna shift from buyer education to business architecture. Because you don't seem to operate like a traditional mortgage professional. You operate more like a founder engineering assistant. You think about lead flow, you think about automation, you think about web architecture, you think about CRM workflows, you think about how to reduce friction without removing trust. And all these actually contributes to your expertise. So when did you realize that the advantage was not only knowing mortgage, but building better rails for how the business finds, educates, follows with, and serves customers?
Yeah, we started Next Wave Mortgage to be able to offer more, lower rates with more products,
Mhm.
right? We wanted to run lean and mean, run flat, right?
Mhm.
Provide the best service we can, you know?
Yeah.
That's the way that we operate, right? And in terms of, generating leads, we've created a lot of websites that bring in a lot of leads. But in terms of winning the business, once we have a customer, you need to be able to not only close the loan quick, but also, you know, provide the best rates and service possible.
Hmm. So you have built mortgage business with a startup like Logic, which is, all the systems that actually brings this pipeline and it never dries up. What does it mean to run a mortgage brokerage like a software startup, and the playbook that you use for mortgage that really has given you that success?
Yeah, what I would say is, is that you got to have a good team of people. No one can do it on their own, right?
Mm,
This is really important. The founder may have a vision, but you need great people. A team is what wins championships, right?
mm,
And so you got to be willing to do whatever it takes to win. Founder
mm.
means you're also cleaning the floors. You're
Yeah.
doing everything, you
Mm,
know? And that's a big thing. You got to be able to take the risk and, start the company and not waste money. That's the advantage of a small company to be can offer a better price is not waste. It's like government. Companies are like government. You don't need a lot of companies don't need more revenue. They need to stop spending.
Agreed.
Most companies have a spending problem, not a revenue problem.
Or spend wisely.
Yes, invest wisely.
Yeah. So that's quite interesting when you think about it. But even then, there's what really keeps things moving from traditional to getting, because even now when you think about the whole business, many traditional businesses depend heavily on referrals, manual follow-up, founder energy, advertisements, relationship. Those things matter, of course, no doubt, but they do not always scale. So what do services business owners often misunderstand about scale? Because it doesn't mean you're running an ad on TV or like right now, World Cup is going on. Your name is seen several times. It doesn't always translate into conversion. So what do they miss and what breaks when a business depends too much on manual effort?
Yeah, with skill, you need to put everything in process. And that's the reason before you scale, we've grown a lot, and what we realized is that if you overspend in certain areas, your mistakes get amplified. So we're also trying to, as we go through this, fix everything, because
Yeah.
in mortgage industry, the biggest cost right now is credit reports. So how do we save money and reduce the cost, as we continue to add people and make things happen,
Mhm. Absolutely.
So that's what I would tell you is you got to know your numbers as a business and you got to have the right people in place and not overspend, right?
Yeah.
We're in the same place. We got to button, make the belt a little tighter,
Yeah. I mean, there's some clarity I want our viewers and even me to understand. When you say right people, what does that mean?
That means one big mistake that you got to hire smart.
Ah,
You need to hire smart. You got to get people that really want to work hard and that love what they do. And
mhm,
people are
mhm,
like, well, what are you looking for? Right? You want
mhm.
people that show up, that have a passion, that are annoying, right? You want sticky people, right? I know
Yeah.
right away if someone will be good. Right
Mm,
away.
yeah.
Are you annoying? Are you on top of things? You know?
Yeah. So you have to check that drive and alignment with what you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about the microsite architecture. Why build many consumer-facing real estate and mortgage microsite instead of only one large website?
Yeah. So what a microsite things and what a microsite is that it's a 2-page website, 1 to 2 page website. That's what's called micro.
Hmm.
And we do something called domain matching. What that is that so say you say search results, right? If you're like looking at search results, that answer, like say you type in a question, that answer would be your website, right? So like if you have a loan program, say Hometown Hero Loan Program, which is the #1 program in Florida, you would want to be that program like Hometown Hero loanprogram.com. So you want to be the answer to the question, which can be
Mm,
used for anything, right? So say you're a dentist office,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Root canal, whatever, right, would be
Mhm.
the answer
Yeah.
to, you want to be the answer to the question. That's the goal of the microsite. And that's what we've done to get a lot of traffic. Building a big website is really hard because you're never going to rank it in the age of AI. The only way you're going to win is these small websites.
Yeah. Wait a minute. So are you saying that search engine optimization is no longer working in the age of AI?
It works less. Your best friend is to be the answer. Okay. Search engine, the way I would describe it is today it's like a steak. You want to cut against the grain. If you
Mm,
cut a steak with the grain, it's not as good. You need to cut
yeah.
against the grain and do opposite of what you want to be the answer. Think of the
Mm,
way Google works.
mhm,
Question, answer. Your answer
mm.
is now your domain.com. That's
Mhm.
it. Keep it simple.
Okay. Got you. So I know having a microsite can generate traffic, but traffic alone does not create trust. Absolutely. So how do you design microsite that they do more than attract clicks?
Well, you want good content. You
Mhm.
need to fill out this page with yourself, not AI slop. So just figure out your stuff really good.
Mm.
Write
Eh,
good content from the heart. You don't need perfection. You need humanism.
got you.
Less SEO. You know why? You get into this SEO, this optimization. You start doing backlinks and gray area stuff, and just write normal stuff. I'll tell you a story, Mike.
Mhm.
Or, I fired someone because all they were doing is AI stuff. And then
Mm.
I fired him, and he's like, I'm going to tell the whole world of what you do, which is what I just told you. He's like, you need to give me $200,000. I'm not giving you
Yeah.
200,000. He says, fine,
Yeah.
give me 40,000. And really, what I'm telling you is what I just told you. Write your content yourself
Mhm.
and become the answer. And if you do
Mm.
these things, you'll be successful.
Yeah, that's correct in so many ways, especially right now that people can always, go out there and do AI stuff and get garbage in, garbage out. But you see, no one can replace the authentic self and the purpose and the mission and the experience. And of course, every day is a new addition to what you have.
Hey, Mike, you ever hear of the band Nirvana?
Now,
Okay. Well, the band Nirvana was a pretty big band. They had a song called Teen Spirit, and they were recording this album that won many Grammys. Anyways, when they were recording it, the executives wanted to make it like non-original, non-authentic, like everything beautiful. And the lead singer, this guy named Kurt Cobain, he refused. And that was the secret of Nirvana, was to be original. And some people would say that was Elvis Presley's downfall, is that his manager was the guy named the Colonel, wasn't original. So I think in music, being original matters, and in creating content, it matters. Be original.
tell me about it, because there's interestingly, now you're talking about music. I'm a DJ, and once in a while, which means once in a week, I go out there and research what is happening, the trends and whatnot. And one of the key things that I saw, I think 2 weeks ago, is that the speed at which people are producing AI music is so intense that real musician catching up to that is almost impossible across the world. In fact, Spotify has not figured out how to remove or to filter and tag AI songs. Same with YouTube and any other release out there, which is kind of interesting in this conversation, because at the end of the day, people don't listen to music because it's music. It's the experience that someone has lived and they have written about it, or they have imagined, or some friends who have lived it. And for you in mortgage,
it's connecting with people. Music's about connecting.
Yeah. And this connecting is based on experiences lived, or
it is.
someone
in the way they write their songs and they put their lyrics. Right? Some of the best songwriters, take Bob Marley, right? When he's writing songs, it's about personal experiences.
And what is happening in the world. Yeah.
It is. And some of his fans would tell you, some of their favorite songs are not the most popular songs.
Absolutely.
It's about his life struggles.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And his dad ended up killing Bob Marley, right? That's the truth, right? This is what happens, right? His dad was an alcoholic and killed him. And he said, but a lot of these struggles. And he was never about perfection. He was about imperfection and connecting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's his magic was musical.
Yes.
And that's what people don't understand. It wasn't always about the beat. It was about being the right songwriter, about being true to yourself. And that's where artists struggle. In fact, there's another artist named Jimmy Buffett. And he was a failed artist until he reinvented himself in the Florida Keys. He failed in Nashville. And sometimes you just got to be authentic. You got to be yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Phil, let's talk about this microsite a bit more before we move to the next section, about now the technology itself. I believe managing microsites is not as easy as it sounds. How do you manage the chaos?
Yeah, what I would tell people is when it comes to microsites, it's actually easier than it sounds. I will
Yeah.
tell you guys a foolproof method for you to be successful.
Mhm.
You do your research like on SEMrush. You use a tool, look at the traffic, get the data of what people are searching, buy the domain, write the content.
Mhm.
That's it. Go
So
with
wait
the
a
data,
minute.
write the content. That's it. Keep it simple. It works. Don't try to cheat. I fired the person that tried to cheat. See, your question basically means we want to look for something else. There's
Mm.
no. If you just follow the easy steps, you will be successful.
Yeah. So there's something that I've got in your explanation there about buying the domain. I thought these microsites are just more or less like one domain, and then you have extensions. So all these are just specific domains.
That's it. This domains.
Sheesh. The investment there is crazy. Over 200 domains that you maintain.
Well, what I would tell people is it's not once you have a good formula,
Mhm.
you do one at a time.
Okay.
It only seems like a lot if you want to do it in 5 minutes.
Mhm.
But if you create, one every 2 weeks, you can get 50 done. You don't need 200,
Yeah.
right? You just need a couple.
Yeah.
Quality over quantity.
And assuming that for any business, what would inform me to get a new domain? Is it what is happening in my
Yeah, so
industry?
most domains are based on brand, like your name.com or your
Mhm.
business.com,
Mhm.
but that's not the answer the customer's looking for.
Mhm.
They're not looking for Henry's Plumbing. They're looking for Broken Pipe Fort Lauderdale
Mhm.
or cheapest, plumber Fort Lauderdale, something like that. Be the answer is
Mhm.
what I would tell you.
Mhm. I got you. So thank you so much for explaining that, and I think you've even answered my next question around the mistakes that founders should avoid if they try to replicate the model, which is be authentic self and also research well on your industry. Make sure it's fresh every day or every week or every after 2 weeks. Just move with the flow, and it should come from your heart. That way, no one will copy it, and definitely you will win. So once the leads start coming in, the real work begins. So walk us through the operating logic of what should happen from the moment someone fills out the form or requests help. And we have even this phenomenon of zombies, people who just sign up, and if you don't follow up, they never close the deal, they never go beyond that.
Boy, these are great questions. If you have a customer, a lead, what I would just say is talk less, listen more, just to keep it simple.
Mhm. Mhm.
People do business that they know, like, and trust you. If you cut them off when they're talking, they won't trust you. So have a
Mm.
conversation.
Okay. Okay.
That's a big thing. As far as the converting the leads, we're working on that also. One
Mm.
of our biggest things was generating leads, and we're working on getting better at converting. We are. I don't have all the answers on converting. If I did, you know, life would be different.
I agree. That's the science of it all.
It
But
is.
Phil, I know you said you fired someone because of overusing AI, and of course they wanted to sabotage you. But at what point should you automate some of the tasks, and at what point should you keep the authentic self and ensuring that the balance is met? You know,
Yeah, what I would say is this: always be authentic.
so don't use AI.
You can for a little bit, but
Mhm.
people have a tendency to use too much. So you
Mhm.
can, but you need to be the force behind it.
Yeah. In that case, AI is changing search. That's for sure. Like right now, if you go on Google,
AI has a place, and it's
yeah,
fine.
Mhm.
It's fine, but keep it to more of a minimum. This will be hard for people. People are going to try to cheat. Keep it to a
Okay.
minimum is what I would tell you.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So ensure that even if you're using AI, it's not like
Yeah. Oh, here's the short version.
100%.
I'll give
Yeah.
people the short version. The guy I
Mm,
fired, he
mm.
did 88 websites in a month. Today,
Right.
we've gotten one lead from it, an 88 in 1 month. Okay. One lead. Some of our other sites, we're getting hundreds of leads. We get over almost 2,000 leads now a month.
Just one
So,
website versus
yeah,
80.
you need to be original, is what I'm really telling people. It will just be crap. You'll be lazy, and you should fire yourself. So do more yourself in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I think it goes deeper even beyond mortgage and in every business right now.
You know
It's
the
all
way to
about
look at this, Mike? I would tell you,
Mhm.
if you're married, are you just going to use AI to talk to your wife? Or do you just be original? Just talk with her, right?
You
Same
have to have
thing.
authentic conversation.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
Correct.
And
No
even if you
different.
research, you don't take everything that you find out there because everyone is unique and everyone has unique
Correct.
needs. Yeah. Yeah.
Correct.
So the human nature has to be there
Correct.
always. Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
Nothing hits home like that.
That's what I would tell you.
Yeah. So when we talk about housing, Phil, we cannot ignore people who are priced out, rent burden, unhoused, and living with deep insecurity. So mortgage technology alone will not solve homelessness,
Of course
but better
not.
systems can improve access, education, speed, and decision making. Where do you think the private sector can genuinely help? And where do we need to be honest about the limits of business and technology?
Look, business can help reduce costs a little bit,
Mhm.
but there's so much regulation. If you want to save money, you need to rein in regulation, right? A lot of regulation. People want bigger governments. You got higher costs. The biggest cost for home ownership is more. Not to say you don't need regulation, but regulation is so expensive.
I can't agree more.
You want regulation, you want bigger governments. Well, here you are. There's a value to time. And if things cost more, then it's more expensive. This is what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'd really tell people. Reduced regulation could help.
I see. I see. All right. This makes a lot of sense. And it cuts both ways, man. Like if you listen deeply, there's so much there for everyone, including the regulators and policymakers, and even asking ourselves pertinent question about where are we heading? What's the end of this? Because also there were rumors of, 2026 will be another bubble, like, 2008, and everyone is worried and so on. But many people listening are not in mortgage. They may be lawyers, consultants, insurance brokers, clinic agencies, advisors, real estate professionals, or local services. Who all of them are your customers? What can they learn from your model? If I found in
I
any
would tell
service,
I'll tell everyone's my customer. If you want to buy a
yeah,
home, I'm
yeah,
willing to help. I'm open for business.
yeah. But my question was around, you have to make that money first before you go to feel, all right? So what can they learn from your model? If I found in any service business wants to scale like a software company, what are the first
Okay,
three
what I
areas?
would tell people is this, right?
Yeah. Mm,
You know, keep things simple.
mm,
This is a really big thing. People overcomplicate things. They need more features. It's like the Android. They want more buttons and more scroll bars. My thing is I would tell people be Apple. Less
yeah.
features, no buttons.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
Yes. Okay. So everything you do, keep it simple.
That's where my motto is. Keep it simple. If you need inspiration, look at Apple.
Yeah. So when you look at the future of mortgage, the future of housing, the future of affordability of the housing as a basic need, what should technology focus on improving?
I think it already is. I mean, look, I think what it has to focus in on is not losing the human connection. Like what your questions were really smart of people trying to do too much AI, losing the human elements.
And making them lazy, as you said.
Yeah, you need the human elements.
Yeah. Interesting. So what I'm taking from this conversation is that housing, is deeply human.
It
And
is.
you cannot
Absolutely.
avoid that, right?
Correct.
But Phil, this was a very interesting conversation between, someone who has never really took time to really dig deep into mortgage and understand the nuances. But before we close, where should people go to learn more about your work, connect with you, or explore Next Wave Mortgage?
Well, they could go to nextwavemortgage.com. They can go to LinkedIn, Instagram, ask the mortgage expert, or they could just text message me 617-529-9317. I'll put it in the chat for everyone. 617-529-9317. And I'll always be glad to help people out.
Yeah. And are you on socials besides
Yes,
LinkedIn?
I am on socials, LinkedIn. Ask the mortgage expert because that's what I am. I'm the mortgage expert. So if people want to go to Ask the Mortgage Expert, they could definitely find me. Ask the Mortgage Expert. Same on LinkedIn, Facebook. You can find me. I'm very easy to find. And I'd always love to help people out.
Yeah. That's interesting. Thank you so much. Phil, thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
Yeah. So a mortgage, these are some of the takeaways for me. A mortgage is not just paperwork. It's not just a rate. It's not just a transaction. It's a trust system. It is a decision system. It is a financial bridge between where someone is and where they hope to go. You've helped us to see that many people are not held back only by money. They're also held back by myth, confusion, poor guidance, and systems that make an everyday emotional decision even harder. You have also shown us that a service business does not scale simply because the founder works harder. It scales when the rails get smarter, higher right, with the right people, better education, better automation, better lead flow, better follow-up, better architecture, and better judgment about where technology should serve people without replacing the human trust they need or the human experience. Thank you for joining us on Impact Masters, and we hope to keep in touch and ensure that we are solving the human basic need. Thank you once again, and thank you for our listeners for engaging us. And if this conversation gave you clarity, challenged your thinking, or helped you see housing, mortgage, technology, or service business scale differently, share it with your founder, operator, home buyer, investor, policymaker, or leader who needs to hear it. The future will not be shaped by technology alone. It will be shaped by the quality of our systems, the courage of our builders, the clarity of our decisions, and the humanity we refuse to remove as we scale. I am Michael Kimadi, or if you want, MK, and this has been Impact Masters. Until next time, subscribe, like, follow, share, and keep building with clarity, with courage, and with thanks. Together with Phil, we thank you so much. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
All right, I got to roll. Have a great weekend.
No worries, man.
Bye.
Bye.